Hey Aaron, how are ya?
I'm doing good, Lindsay. It's good to see you.
I know, you too, you too. Well, as promised, we are back on the Christian Therapist podcast. And today we're going to talk about, drum roll please, one of your favorite topics, Aaron. And that is the function of emotions. Yes. So Aaron, talk to us about why for you emotions became such a big I don't know if it's topic, but just a big place of interest for you. Because I know you've spent a lot of time researching, learning, putting words
Yeah.
to emotions.
Well, it's interesting, right? Because my Myers-Briggs is not a feeler. It's
Right,
a
right.
thinker, right? My
You know
Enneagram is
that.
a
Yeah.
5, right? I'm an investigator. Like, I'm all about the thoughts.
Yeah.
Um, so, uh, and when I worked for the church, we did a lot of creativity, we did a lot of creative elements, which were all emotion based.
Hmm.
And I think that helped me have some understanding of their function or how to facilitate people feeling a feeling. But it wasn't until I was, doing therapy that I started really wondering, well, what the heck is that feeling there for? Like, what's it
Sure.
doing? Like,
Yeah.
what's the, like, how do you make it go away? Like, what's it want? And those were just questions that I started to, experiencing, learning emotionally focused therapy, helped me understand like these emotional experiences are really profound. Doing some reading, started understanding like feelings may actually have a purpose beyond you just knowing if you like something or don't like something.
Yeah. I do like that you said at first, you were like, I wanted to know about these feelings to make them go away.
Yeah.
Like, get
Like,
out of here. Yeah.
who wants to feel bad? Like my job as a therapist to make you feel better. Well, how do we get rid of that feeling then? So it's
Uh-huh.
okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
But it is
so
that funny thing in when you learn about something with almost like an end in mind. Like, how can I make this go away?
yeah.
And then like what you're kind of saying here is that you discovered, oh, you actually don't want to do that.
Well, you don't, in some ways you don't make it go away. You have to resolve it.
Right.
Right. And so you can't, if you ignore it, like apparently it never leaves. Like that's what I say that a lot to clients. If a feeling doesn't go anywhere, it doesn't go anywhere. Like it
Yes,
just
yes.
stays there forever. And when
And
it comes to
yeah, it often intensifies.
yeah, like it gets worse.
Right.
So, not attending to a feeling for my
Mhm.
clients really seemed like this is not working for you. It just seems to get worse.
Right.
You dissociate it, you hide it, you try to like, blank it out, you end up doing other weird behaviors so you don't have to deal with that feeling, and then those behaviors become problems, and like the whole thing gets really messy and convoluted, all because there's a feeling in me that I don't know what it wants, and how do I get it to go away? And all the ways that we typically do it doesn't actually help that feeling. It may help it for a moment, but the solution becomes its own problem. And
Yeah.
then eventually that thing like rise like a dead body just rises back to the surface. Like I thought I anchored that thing to the bottom of the floor, like of the ocean. Like why is it back at the surface? And so it creates this around and around bout. So I just really started getting very curious. So like, so what, why is that feeling there? What does it want? And then through empathy and then further into attunement, really trying to co-experience that feeling with clients, I began to ask the feeling itself, like, what is happening with you? What is going on? What do you want? Like, what do you need? And then I started realizing that, feelings kind of came in these three categories. There's a connected feeling. A connected feeling feels good because you have what you want. And each feeling has its, like, it says something very specific. Safe is a very specific connected feeling. Love or loved is a very specific connected feeling. Confident is a very specific connected feeling. Like I have something that I need, and because I can feel I have it, there's this really positive quality of an emotion that shows up in our body that we go, that feels good. I like that. That is what I want. That does make me feel powerful or good or safe or connected or
Right.
whatever. So connected feelings are feelings that help you understand the thing I'm looking for, whatever this quality is, I have it.
Hmm.
And of course, then if you don't have it, then you get what I call a disconnected feeling.
Right.
And disconnected feelings feel bad for the very purpose to let you know you're missing the thing that the connected feeling wants to feel.
Yes. Yes. So I mean, it's like an alarm system.
Yeah,
Essentially, it's going woo, 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 like, hey, you need to pay attention here because we're not doing okay.
right. And pain is
Versus,
like,
yeah, versus like, what some people like, let go and let God, or, whatever,
yeah,
where it's like, ignore it or cut it off and throw it into the fire, whatever.
yeah.
And that's
What's
that's
the,
usually my favorite. It happens at like a camp or something where they're like, write your anxiety on a brick
yeah.
or a piece of wood, throw it into the fire, and now your anxiety is gone. And I'm like, that's a horrible trap.
Yeah, that doesn't actually, because you're ignoring the inherent message the feeling's trying to give you.
Correct.
Kind of like pain is like the greatest example, right?
Hmm.
Pain is saying something's hurting you, and it alerts you, even in your body, to the source of the pain. It hurts here. So
Yeah.
you can do something about that pain because I'm, standing on a Lego or something has scratched me or whatever. And so
Hmm.
that pain is saying, hey, something happens right here. Well, let's just write the name of pain on a piece of paper and just throw it in the fire.
Yes.
Well, what happens to the actual injury the pain's trying to tell you about?
It's
Like,
still there. Right.
so
It's still present. It's still there. And then what you have added on is that then when the pain comes back
yeah,
after the weekend's over, then you feel embarrassment or even questioning, is my relationship with God even good? Like he didn't take it away from me.
right,
Like what's wrong here?
right,
And I sit back and I go, there's nothing wrong. You weren't supposed to throw the thing into the fire in the first place.
right,
That was just it was a bad exercise. It has nothing, no bearing on your relationship with God because he's not a God of elimination. He's a God of transformation. And
that's
that's
right.
what you're saying is that we have these feelings that get disconnected and they're essentially whispering to you, we're not okay, pay attention. There's something we need to do so that we can feel connected again.
Right. So it's kind of like, killing the messenger. you
Yeah,
know and then you wonder why there's a big problem. Well, did you read the message? No, I didn't want that message, so I just shot the messenger. And you're like, but that's why I sent you a messenger, so you'd have the message. And we do that
right.
with our feelings. We ignore what they're trying to tell us. We
Mhm.
just feel like that God wouldn't want us to ever feel bad, but God's like, I sounds bad. I want you to feel bad when something's wrong. Like that's why I gave you a feeling that would feel bad.
Yes, you're like
You
I
can
do
use
that
it.
with physical pain. I also do it with emotional pain.
Correct. And because he's so good, that he gave us very specific ways we experience our feelings that tell us exactly where something is wrong by the quality of the distress. And that's what I found to be really fascinating when it came to working with clients of all cultures, all races, all socioeconomic backgrounds, and multicultural competence. Like I have to know every culture to understand everyone's unique experience. And that was really overwhelming to me. But then when I came across Paul Ekman's research that he did like in the late 60s, published in the early 70s, where he went to like first world countries, third world
Yeah.
countries, even a tribe in Papua New Guinea, where or in New Guinea, I don't know if it was in Papua, but in New Guinea, where they had like very, very limited
Like remote.
interaction.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're tribes, they're primitive, they're spears, right? They're bone knives, like they're just very primitive. And even they could recognize and accurately identify an emotion based on a facial expression. That's happy, that's sad, that's disgust, that's surprise, that's fear. Like they could look at a face and know what it
Right.
meant. So there's very specific qualities to feelings that are universal across every person on the planet. And we'll talk more about this later about like how God designed us that way. But because that is true, those feelings are inherently carrying message to convey very specific information. And when we connect to what that distress is, that distress will point you to a connected feeling of what it's looking for, right? So hungry, of course, is looking for full or satisfied. Like I
Right.
have lonely is looking for connected, right? Fear is looking for safe. And
Hmm.
if safe isn't possible, at least reassurance.
Sure.
It's looking for this quality that will ease my distress and get me back to good. So good feelings are connected. Disconnected feelings are present to help us know how to move back to good.
Hmm.
And so we can talk about all the different types of ways we feel that. We have so many different words for emotions that convey the nuance or the specifics of kind of how that happens. But then there's a third category of feelings that I call impaired feelings. And an impaired feeling has a belief that connection will never be possible. Like you can never get back to good.
Right.
And so it's just stuck like in the outer fringes. It can never move towards the source of good. It's just really frozen out there. And so like contempt is an impaired feeling because compassion will never be an option,
Mm.
right? I'll never have compassion, like never. And so it will never resolve. And contempt may sound like it's just something terrible to somebody else, but it's very painful to us to have somebody that we would have contempt for means there's no possibility of connection,
Right.
right?
Right. Well,
Um,
and these places, Aaron, you kind of tell me if this fits, is like a lot of times it can move from this disconnected feeling to distressed in this place of feeling these wounds in relationships
mm,
that what we kind of call like the never again moments.
mhm.
I will never again open myself up in that way. And so, or I will never again trust, or I will never again allow myself to feel this way with this other person.
Right.
So then it just walls off
Mhm.
any sort of hope for
Yeah,
anything different.
because you're frozen there. There's no hope of movement. So then what do you do? And
Yeah.
now your distress has no other option. Like it's
Yeah.
just permanent. And as much as you hate it, you're trapped with it.
Right.
Um, and that's what I think about a lot of ways this feelings often we create stories for our feelings, right? The way I describe a feeling, my definition of a feeling is a somatic sensation, right? It's physical sensation that conveys a meaning, but it has no language, right? Because you don't have words for your feelings, but they still have inherent meaning. Like babies have no language whatsoever, but they cry anytime there's something of distress. But when their parent or their caregiver comes and figures out what that feeling needs, you're hungry, I feed you, the feeling goes away. You're lonely, I come hold you, you're reassured, or you are scared and I come, or you're injured and I care for it, and that feeling resolves. That helps us know that that feeling is valid, and it helps us build language as a parent shows up and puts language or helps us understand the meaning
Mhm.
that's there. But
Right.
we aren't required to be able to know what the meaning is for the feeling to have a meaning. It has a meaning all by itself.
Mhm.
And so that's what the function of like the feelings are. It conveys this meaning. We have to put language around it, and oftentimes the stories that we give of feelings leave us really impaired because the story is actually mismatched with what the feeling is. So if my relational story is you're a jerk, right? Then my hurt will never be cared for because you're just a jerk,
Mhm.
right? So there's no or if I believe that I'm not worthy of love, then that feeling won't actually receive love.
Mhm.
It'll actually push it away. Even though that's what that feeling wants. My hurt needs to feel love, but or my shame, says I'm not good enough, right? Because all fallen short, we're all not good enough. So we all have an element of shame that we can always find inside ourselves. But when that story is I'm not worthy of any love, then we'll push that away and we won't receive it. So these stories get really messed up.
Yeah.
And I think that one of the things that the Satan likes to do is he likes to sell you a lie. He tells you a story that makes so much sense in the moment. It seems so attractive. It seems so like it makes everything makes sense, but it's a lie. And then when you believe it, he condemns you for believing it. See,
Yes.
you're the stupid one who believed me in the first place, and
Yes.
now you're totally stuck.
Right. You're back in frozen.
Yeah, there's
Yeah.
nowhere to go.
Yeah. Well, even when you were talking about how we can get some very poor messages that we will put to our feeling, I'm even thinking of when I hear people say, like, don't cry, be brave, be brave, be brave. And I go, well, just that kind of messaging with your tears can give your tears the undercurrent message, which is tears are not brave.
Right.
Tears are weak, which we do get that a lot. A lot of times feel like I can't, no, that shows weakness, or that means I'm small or whatnot. And I'm even very cautious about that with my kiddo, because heard people say, don't cry, be brave. I circle back, I'm like, no, you're okay.
Well, those are two different feelings anyway.
Right.
Brave is about fear, crying is about hurt. Like,
Right.
they're mismatched messages. They don't even go
Right.
together.
Right. That's where I'm like, if you need to cry, you cry.
Yeah. Well,
Cry.
there are times, right, based on the situation, that we do need to be brave and not cry. If I'm a soldier in the middle of a war, like crying in the midst of a battle is probably not helpful,
Sure.
right? If I'm on a sports team and I'm trying to perform at a high level or I'm trying to take a test, I can't cry through my test. I can't think right. So
Yeah.
there's times when we need to know how to manage a feeling or lead a feeling to say, you have
Right.
to wait because this moment, I have to do this right now,
Right.
like in terms of
Exactly.
self-leadership. But that feeling will still need to be attended to. Like one of the biggest, I don't know, Lindsay, you probably have this in your practice, like some of the most emotionally impaired people are surgeons,
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
right? Because they go through this medical school process where they're told to dissociate their feelings so that they can operate at this high level. I can't cry. Like you have a story that you tell often,
Oh,
right?
I know. I know. Yes. Well, it is because we want for people to become integrated. That's kind of why we're doing all of this. And to be able to be integrated with all of your feelings, all of your emotions together. But at the same time, what we do know is that there are times where we do have to show up and do a job. We
Right.
have to show up and do that. And so it's kind of that funny thing where I was having surgery, and it's what I tell people in our marriage intensive. I'm like, in those moments, if our surgeon came in and he was like, Lindsay, I just can't think straight. My marriage is falling apart. My kids hate me, all this stuff.
Yeah.
This
And
is
then he's
just what's happening, and I was like, oh
count
my
back from
God.
10. 10. Look.
I know. I'd be like, no, like surgery's off, I was like, I need you to get out, like go get it together, man. Come back. And that's where I was like, stuff it all way down, so that you can perform what you need to perform. So yes, to your point, there are these times where it's the same first responders. I mean, there's a whole big field where
Mhm.
you are prized on disconnecting or dissociating from these places inside of you so you can perform a task. But then what we find is that we get back into our relationships where we long for closeness, or they long for closeness from us. And we try to employ the same tactics that we do at our job, and it doesn't work.
Right.
We need to be in these relationships, especially with our spouse, especially with our kiddos, with those that we want to be close with. We need to be able to go, oh, okay. Uh, this is where I can bring these things out. This is where I don't have to show up only brave or only performing or only fixing or only solving whatever person's problem is in front of me or only rescuing.
Hmm.
Like, I need to be able to show up authentically in what's happening inside of me too. But oftentimes we've disconnected from it.
Right.
So many people don't even know.
Yeah. And that's the hard thing, right? So we disconnect feelings or we hold them aside for periods of time so that we can get something accomplished, right? If I'm running for my life and I have a rock in my shoe, sitting down to cry about my rock in my shoe, not the moment,
No,
right?
right.
Oh, like need to get myself safe, then I can go care for my foot. Like there's times we have to push through distress, but those are periods of crisis, right? Or periods of performance that are like this is what has to happen, but we don't live there. That's not where we live. They're designed to be moments, right? These periods where this kind of this process can happen. And so, what our story about surgeons is that, while they're taught to dissociate their feelings really well, no one teaches them how to put it back together again.
Right,
So they
right.
don't know how to go home and then reconnect all their feelings and what to do with them. They weren't trained in that,
Yeah,
just for one. And so we have that, and we do that naturally in our lives, not just in specific things like surgery or first responding. We figure out what to do, but then those feelings are always waiting for us to attend to them. So getting impaired, like you never get from impaired to connected, right? It's kind of like you don't go from freeze uh, to safe. You have to go back through the chain, like freeze, back to fight or flight, then to safe. And that's kind of how feelings work. They from impaired, when they become unimpaired, that that maybe like I'm not worthy, or the shame that says I'm not worthy of love, right? We don't go from there to restored. We go from there back to hurt. You
well,
know,
being able to move it from this stuck place, from this place of there's no way I can even ever let this in, is we're starting to help clients go, even like, can we even start to see that this is like 5% possible? Like we're
right?
trying to even bring in some kind of hope that something could even shift or be different, even if it's just in them,
Hmm.
because we can't control the others, but just to even start to believe that it could be possible
Yeah,
is what can start to shift it. But to your point, it's not going to go straight from no, I believe nothing is possible to man, it's all possible. It's all great. There is a process that you have to start to build that gets earned over time.
that's right.
You know, we have to believe over time that people will show up with us. We have to believe over time and experience it that God is with us. Like
Right.
there are these places that um, we have yet to find this magic button or the
Hmm.
easy button that you press that makes people go, no, you know, I am so closed off to all of a sudden I now just feel so fully connected. Like it's a work, it's a process.
Yep.
And that's why, too, a lot of our therapists, we help them know it, therapy can be a long journey. And sometimes we are the ones that start to show our clients that something different is possible.
Right.
Um, and we have to be that kind of hope merchant or that offering that going back to the hands and feet of Jesus, that
Hmm.
something can be different.
Yeah.
And it might mean your person's with you for quite a long time because we're trying to move them back to connected, which takes some time. And also trying to help them build these kind of relationships outside of our office too, you know.
That's
Uh,
why doing something cognitive so that they can know what to do doesn't actually help them shift, because I can know something in my brain, but if I haven't lived it or experienced it, it just can feel very distant. And that's why in the therapy I created, Attuned Systemic Repair, one of the major things that we do to kind of disrupt impaired feelings is a technique I call empathetic contradictions.
mhm.
Right? And it's an empathetic contradiction. I'm not just contradicting you. The way I'm contradicting you is by through empathy.
Sure.
Uh, so that if people are like, I'm just not worthy of love, and the way I'm responding to you is very loving, well, that's a contradictory experience, right? It's a disconfirming experience because while you're saying no one sees me, and I'm like, yeah, because it's so hard that no one sees you. And I'm describing that feeling and I'm helping them expand and I'm reflecting, expanding what that's like for them, right? They're like, yep, I'm validating no one sees them by seeing them.
Right.
Right. So what's it like for me to see you? It's just so different, right? We're working to attend to those underlying needs and longings that I know that are connected with the impairment. And by touching them and activating them, kind of skipping the objection or honoring the objection while offering what was missing is this process that helps create change. Because I don't have to just convince them it can be different. I'm demonstrating the difference to them. And
Mhm.
I'm helping that feeling know it's possible because it's experiencing it in the moment.
Yeah.
And so it's quite a powerful thing, empathy. It's like what makes a feeling go away or what makes a feeling feel better. And almost every time it's somebody who feels it with you,
Right. We're
right?
going back to the witness.
That's right.
Yes.
Even if that's about myself, someone feeling it with me makes it feel better.
Mhm.
Even if it's sadness where the thing I've lost won't come back, the fact that you feel it with me alleviates the aloneness of my sadness,
Right.
if not the source of what I want to feel connected to. So
Yes.
there's this powerful process. So feelings have a function, right? They're telling you what's wrong in a very specific qualitative way.
Hmm.
If we connect to it and listen to it and build some accurate language around it, it really helps us be very adaptive to all the things that happen in our life.
Hmm.
We will always feel distress, but we don't have to feel as distress as big or as long as
Right.
we typically do because we don't know what to do with it.
Right. Because there's a place of when we feel things alone, it can feel like it will never get better. Like it can feel like a void or a pit, or
Yes.
that's what people will say. They're like, oh, I'll never get out of it if I start to let myself feel it.
Right?
And that's where we say, no, that's because you've always felt it alone.
Right.
But when you do feel it with me here in the room, you'll notice it starts to get better. It's almost like it goes on this bell curve. It will get intense. It will not feel great, but I'm still with you in it.
Mhm.
And then it's kind of like the sun will come out and it will start to feel less intense. And that's usually when we check back in with people. How does that feeling feel now? What do you notice about that feeling that we started with? And there's usually relief, lighter, just the place of like, whoo, but usually they're surprised. Oh, it feels lighter. Like that's wild, and of course we're like, I know, it's so wild. But it's the way
Yep.
that God designed us.
And that's the power of connection when we think about
Mhm.
emotions, whether they're about yourself or they're in the context of somebody else. The thing that makes it all better is the connection. Because when you can't hold yourself together, I
Mhm.
can hold you. And that's that safety of like I don't have to have it all together all the time. I don't have to be able to manage every moment all the time. If I have someone there who can hold me when I can't hold myself, that's
Mhm.
a very, very safe place to be distressed.
Mhm.
Because even though I'm overwhelmed, I'm not like scripture, like Paul said, we're overwhelmed, but we're not crushed,
Right.
right? We're persecuted, but we're not killed, like because there's this sense of togetherness that allows me to be safe even in distress. And that only comes through this context of relationship. And so there's a freedom then in distress that I don't have to be scared of distress because if I don't have to ever go through distress alone, then it's far easier for me to endure it and work it out. And
Mhm.
that's the whole point of therapy, right? Is
Right.
someone who's with you in it that helps you work it through. But even in the midst of it, like someone's got you when you
Yes.
can't.
Yes. And I remember too, Aaron, I was working with a supervisee, and in what the supervisee was presenting and how it played out, like there was a stuck place. And my question to the supervisee was, man, this feeling was alive in your client. What made you go away from the feeling instead of towards the feeling? Because it
Right?
was like the feeling was crying out in that moment to be seen or tended to. And the supervisee, very honestly, was like, because I'm scared of that feeling, you know, which was honest and good awareness. but it also brings this place of if we ourselves, like we as therapists, if we do notice that there are feelings inside of us, feelings inside of others that do scare us, that do feel like we don't know what to do with it, it's usually because we probably have not really connected to that feeling in us and
Mhm.
have moved it with somebody or with God or with Jesus or the Holy Spirit to a place of connected, to a place of healing. And so it would make sense that we'd be scared to go in there because you'd also believe if I went in there with it, it would make it worse.
Right?
And so we ourselves as therapists do have to have those experiences of going into emotions with others and allowing others to do that with us so that we can know how. Because I think that, I will usually I'm like, okay, Aron, we know you're great with feelings. Okay. But really you are. And so there is a place for you where you can tell somebody's feeling really easily.
Mhm.
But it is also because you continually do the work in trying to put words to your feelings or allowing other people to sit and put words to those feelings too. And then it's like the path to that feeling just now got wider. It got easier to go to because you're like, oh, I know exactly what that feels like.
Right?
And I know what it needs.
Yeah,
So we can even kind of get a jump on our clients to go, oh yeah, and I get that feeling for sure.
for
And I
sure.
already know what it needs because I've felt it in my body too.
And I think that's important to note is that, empathy or attunement, it's not just a gifting, it's a skill set. First of all, everyone's designed by God to connect to feelings.
Right.
Like every baby's born with feelings, right?
Yes.
I've never met a baby born with no feelings. Right? They
Sure.
all, they all show up feelings. And we're made to be that sense of connectedness. So there's an intuitiveness or a natural flow of how God designed us to be able to do that. All of our impairments come as protectors or adaptations to distress, but we're made to do that. But there's a skill set. The more you practice it, just the easier it is, the more familiar you are with it, the more you know it, the faster you can recognize something when there's a problem. And that's just something that I did is I was always running to the feeling to be like, what is that? I want to know what it is. But if you are a good therapist, your therapy will expose to you all the things lacking in yourself.
Yes.
And if you're a good therapist, you will then believe your own advice that you're giving to the client.
Yes.
If
Yes.
it's good for them, then it's probably good for me. I probably should go do that myself.
Right.
You
Right.
know?
Yes. And to get a jump on it, to go
Yeah,
ahead and start to do it for yourself.
totally.
So that way, yeah.
Why would I ask a client to do something I wasn't willing to do myself?
Yeah.
And if I'm willing to do my own work, I understand the difficulty of what I'm asking my client to do, which
Right.
only increases my empathy and how hard it is, because
Right.
I know how hard it is. I've had to go do it myself.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah,
And it does. It helps you in your skill set and it helps you become a better therapist. And it
totally.
helps your retention rate
Right?
as well,
Yeah,
which is nice.
that's right.
Well, Aron, thank you for the conversation. And we are going to kind of keep the emotion train going. And
Yes.
then our next episode, we're going to talk a little bit more about the theology of emotions. So
Mhm.
this we talked about function.
Function.
And then we're going to move into theology, which is exciting because it gets to bring your, pastoral background into it as well.
Yeah.
And just to kind of put that little plug in for you, Aron, of the online course that you did that is going to expand even more on the theology of emotions and just helping us understand our emotions. And that I think you've got it over on the In Relationship website,
Yeah.
correct?
Yeah. Yep. It's kind of a high level. It's like I think it's only an hour.
Mm.
Um, Kind of going through kind of the mix of the function and the theology. It's kind of a high review, but for anybody who's curious or wants to know more or wants to spend some time with it, look at the slides, then it's really helpful.
Yes. And our next podcast will be just a really good Cliff Notes version of it. So looking forward to having that conversation with you and have a good one.
See ya.